The trading station smelled like 1,000 different worlds mixed together. Jiwoo wrinkled her nose as she walked past a food stall selling something purple and steaming. Her father, Taemin, held her hand tightly as they moved through the crowded marketplace. Aliens of every shape and size filled corridors. Some had 6 legs, others had tentacles, and a few floated in the air inside special suits filled with strange colored gas. Jiwoo was 9 years old and had lived on cargo ships her whole life. She was used to aliens. They didn't scare her anymore. What excited her was exploring new places, and this trading station was huge. It sat on the edge of known space, where ships from everywhere came to trade goods and refuel. "Stay close," Taemin said, pulling her toward a vendor selling protein rations. "We need supplies for the next run, and I don't have time to chase you around." Jiwoo nodded, but her eyes wandered. The marketplace was so colorful and busy. There were stalls selling glowing crystals, strange weapons, and food she couldn't even identify. Music from a dozen different cultures mixed in the air, creating a chaotic symphony that somehow worked together. Taemin started arguing with an insect-like alien about the price of protein bars. The alien had big compound eyes and clicking mandibles. Jiwoo had heard this conversation 100 times. Her father always haggled. It would take at least 10 minutes. She spotted a narrow alley between 2 stalls. It led toward the back of the marketplace, where the big waste containers were kept. Most people avoided that area because it smelled bad and the lighting was poor. But Jiwoo heard something. A sound like wind whistling through broken metal, but sadder somehow. More alone, she glanced back at her father, who was still arguing. Then she slipped into the alley. The noise grew louder as she walked deeper. The marketplace sounds faded behind her. Here, the station's old bones showed through. Exposed pipes dripped condensation, and rust colored the metal walls. Large cargo containers, each bigger than her father's entire ship, sat stacked against the walls. Then she heard it again, that sad whistling sound. It came from behind a green cargo container marked with symbols she couldn't read. Jiwoo walked around the container and stopped. A small creature huddled in the shadows, pressed against a cold metal wall. At first, Jiwoo thought it might be a large lizard, but then she saw the wings, folded tight against its body. Scales covered its entire form, but they looked dull and sick, not shiny like they should be. One wing had a torn membrane, and the creature was shivering. Jiwoo's breath caught in her throat. She knew what this was. Everyone in the galaxy knew. This was a dragon child. Dragons were the apex predators of 12 star systems. They grew as large as cargo ships. Their claws could tear through starship hulls. Their fire breath could melt steel. Entire species feared them. Wars had been fought and lost against dragon worlds. And there was a baby one, alone and hurt, right in front of her. The smart thing would be to run. The safe thing would be to get her father. Any reasonable person would have backed away slowly and pretended they saw nothing. Jiwoo stepped closer. The dragon child's head snapped up. Its eyes were large and golden, with slit pupils that widened in the dim light. It made a hissing sound and tried to stand, but its legs wobbled. The creature was weak. That much was obvious. "It's okay," Jiwoo said softly, the way her father spoke to scared animals. "I won't hurt you." The dragon hissed again, louder this time. Small wisps of smoke came from its nostrils. But Jiwoo could see past the threat. She could see fear in those golden eyes. She could see a child, lost and alone and terrified. She took off her jacket. It wasn't much, just a thin thermal layer, but it was warm from her body heat. Slowly, carefully, she moved closer. The dragon tried to snap at her with tiny fangs, but it was too weak. The movement made it collapse onto its side. Jiwoo saw its ribs showing through the scales. This little creature was starving. "You're so cold," Jiwoo whispered. She draped her jacket over the dragon's body. The creature flinched but didn't have the strength to fight. Up close, Jiwoo could see it was beautiful, even sick. Its scales were deep blue with hints of silver, like the night sky filled with stars. "What are you doing?" Jiwoo jumped. She turned to see her father standing at the entrance to the space between containers. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide with shock and fear. "Papa, look," He's hurt, Ji-woo said, pointing at the dragon. Tae-min rushed forward and grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Ji-woo, that's a dragon. Do you understand what that means? Those things are dangerous. Even the babies can kill. But he's sick, Papa. Look at him. He can barely move. Tae-min stared at the small dragon. The creature watched them with wary eyes, still wrapped in Ji-woo's jacket. Its breathing was shallow and quick. We have to leave, Tae-min said firmly. Right now. If anyone sees us with a dragon child, they'll think we kidnapped it. Do you know what dragon parents do to people who hurt their children? We didn't hurt him. We're helping. Dragons won't see it that way. Ji-woo, we have to go. Now. But the little dragon made that sound again, that sad, lonely whistle, and Ji-woo saw its golden eyes close, as if giving up. She pulled away from her father and knelt beside the creature again. I'm not leaving him here to die. Look at him, Papa. He's just a baby. He's scared and cold and hungry. If we leave him, he'll die. If we take him, we might die, Tae-min said, but his voice had lost its firm edge. He was looking at the dragon child now, really looking, and Ji-woo knew her father well enough to know what he was seeing. Not a monster, not a threat, just a sick child who needed help. Tae-min ran his hand through his hair, a gesture he made when stressed. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Please, Papa. There was a long moment of silence. The dragon's breathing was the only sound, fast and weak. Then Tae-min sighed, a deep, defeated sigh that told Ji-woo she had won. I'm going to regret this, he muttered. He moved closer to the dragon, carefully, and examined it. Okay. We'll take it to the ship, just to get it warm and give it some food. Then we figure out what to do. Ji-woo smiled, a bright smile that made Tae-min shake his head. But if this gets us killed, he added, carefully scooping up the small dragon, jacket and all, I'm blaming you. The dragon was too weak to fight. It made a small chirping sound, almost like a question, as Tae-min lifted it. It's okay, Ji-woo whispered, walking beside her father as they headed back through the alley. You're safe now. Behind them, the marketplace continued its chaotic dance of trade and noise. But for Ji-woo, everything had changed. She had found something impossible. She had found a dragon child who needed her. And somehow, she knew this was just the beginning. The cargo ship Mugunghwa was not built for comfort. It had narrow corridors, low ceilings, and rooms barely big enough for crew. But it was home to Ji-woo, and right now, it was a hiding place for a very sick dragon child. Tae-min carried the small creature through the loading dock, moving quickly. A few dock workers glanced their way, but the dragon was wrapped in Ji-woo's jacket, looking like nothing more than an odd bundle of cargo. They made it to the ship without anyone asking questions. Inside, Kyung-soo was running systems checks in the cockpit. He was Tae-min's best friend and co-pilot, a man who had flown with him for 15 years. When he saw what Tae-min was carrying, his face went white. Tell me that's not what I think it is, Kyung-soo said slowly. Tae-min laid the dragon child on the medical bay's examination table. The creature was barely conscious now, its breathing even more shallow than before. It's exactly what you think it is. Have you lost your mind? Kyung-soo's voice rose. That's a dragon. Do you know what happens when dragons lose their children? They burn entire stations looking for them. They destroy ships. They start wars. I know, Tae-min said quietly. Then why is it on our ship? Ji-woo stepped between them, her small frame blocking Kyung-soo's view of the table. Because he was dying, and nobody else was helping him. Kyung-soo opened his mouth, closed it, then looked at Tae-min. We need to take it to station security. Right now, before anyone thinks we kidnapped it. And what do you think station security will do? Tae-min asked. They'll panic just like you're panicking. By the time they figure out what to do, this little one might be dead. The dragon made a weak whistling sound. Its eyes opened slightly, unfocused and dim. Kyung-soo stared at it for a long moment. Then he cursed softly and pulled out his communication device. I'm calling Dr. Hannah. She owes me a favor, and she's the only doctor I trust to keep her mouth shut. 20 minutes later, Dr. Hannah arrived at the ship, She was a sturdy woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too many emergencies to be easily surprised. But when she saw the dragon child, her eyebrows rose. "You've outdone yourself this time, Taemin," she said, setting down her medical bag. "I've treated 17 different species, but never a dragon. Can you help him?" Jiwoo asked, moving to stand beside the table. Hannah pulled out her scanner and ran it over the small creature. The device beeped and hummed, collecting data. Him. Yes, it's male. Young, maybe equivalent to 8 human years. He's severely malnourished, dehydrated, and suffering from void freeze exposure. That wing tear is infected too. Will he be okay? Jiwoo's voice was small and worried. Hannah looked at the child and spoke honestly. I don't know. Dragon physiology is different from most species. Their body temperature runs much hotter, their metabolism is faster, and their immune system is incredibly strong. But this little one is in bad shape. The question is whether his natural healing can kick in once we stabilize him. She began working, setting up in 4-line with fluids and nutrients. The dragon flinched when the needle went in but was too weak to fight. Hannah cleaned the wing tear carefully, applied antibiotic gel, and wrapped it in a specialized bandage. Throughout the examination, the dragon watched them with wary golden eyes. Every time someone besides Jiwoo got close, he tried to hiss or snap, even though he barely had the strength to lift his head. He's terrified, Hannah observed, and in pain. I'm going to give him something for that, but I need to be careful. Too much could suppress his breathing. She administered a small dose of pain medication. Within minutes, the dragon's tense body began to relax. His eyes started to close. Will he sleep now? Jiwoo asked. Probably. Sleep is when the body heals. Hannah packed up her equipment. I'll come back in 6 hours to check on him. In the meantime, keep him warm. Dragons need high temperatures. And if you can get him to eat anything, try high-protein foods. Meat if you have it. After Hannah left, Kyung-soo pulled up the station news feeds on the main screen. His face grew grim as he read. They're here. 3 dragon warships just entered the sector. They're demanding access to every station and every ship in the area. Taemin watched the news broadcast. Massive dragon ships, each one looking like a living creature made of metal and fire, floated in space near the station. The broadcast showed dragon representatives speaking to station authorities. Their words were calm, but their meaning was clear. Return the lost child or face consequences. They're offering a reward for information, Kyung-soo continued. But they're also promising punishment for anyone who harmed him. Taemin, we need to make a decision. What kind of decision? Jiwoo asked, not understanding. Taemin knelt down beside his daughter. Jiwoo, the dragons are looking for him. We could contact them, tell them we found their child. They might reward us, or they might think we kidnapped him and hurt us. But we're helping him. I know, but sometimes scared people don't think clearly. And right now, the dragons are very scared. They've lost a child. Jiwoo looked at the small dragon sleeping on the table. His chest rose and fell with each breath. In sleep, he looked peaceful, not scary at all, just small and vulnerable. What if we keep helping him until he's better? She asked. Then we'd give him back. That way they'll see we were nice to him. That means hiding, Kyung-soo said. The dragons are searching every ship. If they find us before the little one can speak for us, they won't ask questions first. Where will we hide? Taemin asked. Kyung-soo thought for a moment. The asteroid belt, Sector 7 Delta. It's full of mining operations and abandoned stations. We could lose ourselves in there for a few days while the little one recovers. That's risky. If they find us hiding, it looks even worse. Everything about this situation is risky, Kyung-soo pointed out. But that little guy needs time to heal. And we need time to figure out the best way to return him without getting killed. Taemin looked at his daughter, then at the dragon child, then back at Kyung-soo. He was quiet for a long time, thinking through all the possibilities. Finally, he nodded. Okay, we run. We hide in the asteroid belt. We heal him. Then we figure out how to give him back safely. Are you sure about this? Kyung-soo asked. No. Taemin admitted, I'm not sure about any of this. But Ji-woo's right about one thing. He needed help, and we're the ones who found him. That has to mean something. Kyung-soo sighed and moved to the pilot's seat. I hope Dragon Mercy is as real as Dragon Fire, because we're about to bet our lives on it. The ship's engines hummed to life. Through the viewport, they could see the Dragon warships in the distance, massive and threatening. Then the Magunga slipped away from the station, heading toward the darkness of the asteroid belt. In the medical bay, Ji-woo sat beside the sleeping dragon. She had pulled up a chair and was watching him breathe. Every few minutes, she would gently touch his scales, making sure he was still warm. Don't worry, she whispered to him. We'll keep you safe. And when you're better, you can go home to your family. They must miss you so much. The dragon's tail twitched slightly in his sleep, as if he heard her words. Outside the ship, space was dark and full of stars. Somewhere out there, dragon ships were searching. Somewhere out there, a family was desperate to find their lost child. But for now, in this small cargo ship, a human girl sat watch over a dragon child. And somehow, against all logic and reason, it felt like the right thing to do. Taemin stood in the doorway, watching his daughter. He had always known she had a big heart, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. She had looked at the most dangerous predator in the known galaxy and seen only a scared child who needed help. Maybe that was humanity's real strength, he thought. The ability to see past fear and choose compassion instead. He just hoped the dragons would see it that way too. 3 days passed in the asteroid belt, and the small dragon child grew stronger. On the first day, he could barely lift his head. On the second day, he ate solid food. On the third day, he followed Ji-woo around the ship like a shadow. The change was remarkable. His scales had regained their shine, gleaming blue and silver in the ship's lights. His golden eyes were bright and alert. The torn wing was healing well, though Dr. Hannah said it would take another week before he could fly properly. But the most surprising change was his attachment to Ji-woo. He refused to let her out of his sight. When she moved to another room, he limped after her, his small claws clicking on the metal floor. When she sat down, he curled up beside her, his tail wrapped around her leg. At night, he slept on a blanket next to her bed, and if she woke up, she would find him watching her with those intelligent golden eyes. I've never seen anything like it, Dr. Hannah said during her daily checkup. Dragons are solitary creatures. They don't bond easily, especially not with other species. But this little one has imprinted on you, Ji-woo. What does that mean? Ji-woo asked, gently stroking the dragon's head. He made a deep rumbling sound, almost like a cat's purr. It means he thinks of you as family, as someone who will protect him and keep him safe. The dragon had learned to understand some human words. When Ji-woo said his name, which he had started calling Rin, because she needed something to call him, his head would turn immediately. When she said hungry, he would chirp excitedly. When she said safe, he would relax and close his eyes. Rin was learning to communicate too. He couldn't speak human languages yet. His throat wasn't built for it, but he made different sounds for different things. A whistle meant he was happy. A chirp meant he wanted attention. A low growl meant something scared him, though that happened less and less as the days went by. Ji-woo taught him simple games. She would hide small objects around the ship, and Rin would use his nose to find them. His sense of smell was incredible. He could track a piece of dried meat through 3 rooms and 2 corridors. When he found what he was looking for, he would prance back to Ji-woo proudly, his tail held high. She showed him pictures on her datapad, images of Earth and other human worlds. Rin seemed fascinated by water. He would stare at images of oceans and rivers for long minutes, his head tilted in curiosity. One afternoon, Ji-woo was teaching Rin how to play a simple game with color blocks when he suddenly did something that made everyone on the ship stop and stare. He laughed. It wasn't a human laugh. It was a series of sharp, barking sounds mixed with puffs of smoke from his nostrils. But it was definitely laughter. Kyung-soo, who had been checking navigation charts, nearly fell out of his chair. Did that dragon just laugh? He asked, amazed. I think so, Ji-woo said, grinning. She made a funny face at Rin, and he did it again, That strange barking laugh with little smoke puffs. Dragons don't laugh, Kyung-soo said, shaking his head. I've read about them. They're serious, dignified creatures. They fight, they hunt, they make treaties. But they don't laugh. Maybe they just never had a reason to, Ji-woo suggested. Later that evening, Rin showed them something else. Ji-woo had been eating dinner, a simple meal of rice and vegetables, when Rin started making urgent chirping sounds. He backed away from her and opened his mouth. Everyone get back. Tae-min shouted, recognizing what was about to happen. A small stream of fire came out of Rin's mouth, no bigger than a candle flame. He aimed it carefully into an empty metal container that Kyung-soo had quickly placed on the floor. The fire lasted only a second, but it was real dragon fire. Rin looked very pleased with himself. He pranced around the container, chirping proudly. He was showing off, Dr. Hannah observed with a smile, like a child showing his parents a new skill. But their peaceful time in hiding couldn't last forever. On the fourth day, the ship's scanners picked up something alarming. A massive vessel had entered the asteroid belt. It wasn't searching randomly. It was moving with purpose, heading directly toward their location. It's a dragon warship, Kyung-soo said, his voice tight with tension. The flagship of the fleet. It's called the Eternal Ember. How did they find us? Tae-min asked, does it matter? They're here, and they're not asking permission to board. They're demanding it. A voice came through the communication system, deep and resonant and absolutely commanding. It spoke in common tongue, the language most species use for trade and diplomacy. Human vessel Magungwa, this is Elder Shirath of the Drakium Sovereignty. You will transport our child to our ship immediately. You will not be harmed if you comply. Resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel. Tae-min and Kyung-soo looked at each other. They had no choice. You didn't argue with dragons, especially not elder dragons who commanded warships. We comply, Tae-min said into the communication system. We have the child. He is safe and healthy. We were caring for him until we could safely return him. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again, and this time there was something different in its tone. Surprise, perhaps. You have been caring for him? Yes. He was sick when we found him. We got him medical help. He's much better now. Another pause, longer this time. Prepare for transport. A shuttle will collect the child and yourselves. Do not attempt to flee. The communication cut off. Ji-woo looked at Rin, who was pressed against her side, sensing her fear. It's okay, she told him, though her voice shook. That was your family. They're here to take you home. Rin made a distressed whistling sound. He pressed closer to her. 20 minutes later, a dragon shuttle docked with the Magungwa. It was sleek and beautiful, covered in scales that looked like armor. When the airlock opened, 2 adult dragons entered. They had to duck their heads and fold their wings tightly to fit through the corridor. Each one was massive, easily 3 times the size of a human. They stopped when they saw Rin. The little dragon looked at them, recognition dawning in his eyes. He made a sound, a complex series of chirps and whistles that must have been dragon speech. But when one of the adult dragons reached for him, Rin did something unexpected. He ran to Ji-woo and wrapped his tail around her leg. He looked up at the adult dragons and made a sound that was clearly distressed. The dragons seemed confused. They spoke to each other in their own language, a series of growls and musical notes that humans couldn't possibly imitate. Come, little one of them said in common tongue. We are taking you home, to your grandmother. But Rin wouldn't move. He clung to Ji-woo, and when she tried to gently push him toward the dragons, he made a crying sound that broke her heart. I don't think he wants to go, Kyung-soo observed quietly. He has to go, Tae-min said. That's his family. Ji-woo knelt down and hugged Rin. Tears were running down her face. You have to go home. Your family missed you so much. They've been looking everywhere for you. Rin pressed his face against her shoulder. His whole body was trembling. The adult dragons watched this with expressions that might have been shock or confusion. Finally, one of them spoke into a communication device. Elder Shirath, you need to see this. They were all transported to the dragon flagship. The Eternal Ember was enormous, built to house creatures that could grow as large as buildings. The ceilings were so high that Jiwoo couldn't see the top. The corridors were wide enough to drive a vehicle through. They were brought to a central chamber, and there Jiwoo saw the most magnificent and terrifying creature she had ever encountered. Elder Shirath was massive beyond imagination. Her scales were deep red, darkened with age and scarred from countless battles. Her wings, even folded, seemed to fill half the chamber. Her eyes were like golden suns, ancient and wise and powerful. When she spoke, her voice resonated through the entire room. "Where's my grandson?" Rin, who had been hiding behind Jiwoo, slowly peeked out. When he saw his grandmother, he made a sound, but he didn't run to her. Instead, he pressed closer to Jiwoo, as if asking her to protect him from his own family. Elder Shirath's enormous eyes moved from Rin to Jiwoo. The ancient dragon stared at the small human child who had somehow earned her grandson's complete trust. "Tell me," she said, her voice softer now, "what have you done to my grandchild?" Jiwoo, terrified but brave, looked up at the massive dragon and answered honestly, "I helped him. That's all." Elder Shirath stared at the small human child standing before her. Jiwoo was trembling, but she didn't look away. Behind her, Rin peeked out from her legs, watching his grandmother with uncertain eyes. The massive dragon lowered her head, bringing her face closer to Jiwoo's level. Her breath was hot, smelling of smoke and metal. One of her eyes was bigger than Jiwoo's entire head. "You helped him," Shirath repeated slowly. "A human child found my grandson and helped him. Why?" "Because he needed help," Jiwoo said simply. "He was cold and hungry and scared. I couldn't just leave him there." Shirath's golden eyes studied her for a long moment. Then the ancient dragon did something that surprised everyone in the chamber. She laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the floor beneath their feet. "A human child with the heart of a dragon," Shirath said. "How strange the universe is." She lifted her head and spoke to the other dragons in the chamber. "Leave us. I wish to speak with these humans alone." The other dragons bowed their heads and left. Soon, only Shirath, Jiwoo, Taemin, Kyungsu, and little Rin remained in the vast chamber. Shirath settled her enormous body on the floor, making herself as small as she could, though she was still massive. "Rin," she called gently, "come to your grandmother, little flame." Rin chirped uncertainly. He looked up at Jiwoo, as if asking permission. "It's okay," Jiwoo whispered, even though her heart was breaking. "That's your grandmother. She loves you." Slowly, Rin walked toward Shirath. The ancient dragon lowered her head and touched her nose to his, a gesture of dragon affection. Rin made happy chirping sounds and rubbed his small head against hers. But after a moment, he ran back to Jiwoo and wrapped his tail around her leg again. Shirath watched this with ancient, wise eyes. "Tell me everything," she said. "How you found him, how you cared for him, everything." Taemin stepped forward and told the story. How Jiwoo had heard Rin's cries in the back alleys of the trading station. How they had brought him to their ship against all common sense. How Dr. Hannah had treated his injuries and illness. How they had hidden in the asteroid belt to give him time to heal. "We knew you were searching," Taemin said. "We knew it looked bad that we were hiding. But he was so weak. We thought if we tried to return him too soon and something happened to him during the transfer, you would think we had harmed him." Shirath listened to everything without interrupting. When Taemin finished, she was quiet for a long time. "Do you know what a clutch bond is?" she finally asked. They all shook their heads. "Dragons are solitary by nature," Shirath explained. "We do not need companionship the way many species do. We come together to make treaties, to fight wars. But we do not form friendships easily. However, sometimes young dragons who hatch together form something called a clutch bond. It is rare, but when it happens, those dragons are connected for life. They would die to protect each other." She looked at Rin, who was still clinging to Jiwoo. "My grandson has formed a clutch bond with your daughter. I have never heard of this happening between a dragon and another species. It should not be possible. Yet here it is." "What does that mean?" Jiwoo asked, It means he thinks of you as family, as important to him as any dragon's sibling would be. Min felt his stomach drop. We didn't mean for this to happen. We were just trying to help. I know, Shira said gently, and that is what makes this so remarkable. You humans are strange creatures. Most species in the galaxy see dragons and feel only fear. They avoid us. They make treaties with us out of necessity, not friendship. But you looked at a dragon child and saw only someone who needed help. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Several dragons entered, all of them large and imposing. They arranged themselves in a semicircle, and Ji-Woo could feel their disapproval even without understanding their language. Elder Shirath, one of them said in common tongue, "The council has been informed. They demand an explanation." Shirath stood to her full height, suddenly looking less gentle and more like the powerful leader she was. "The council can wait, Vex." "They will not wait." The dragon called Vex said firmly, "The child has been found with humans. There are questions that must be answered. Did they kidnap him? Did they harm him? Why was he with them? I have the answers to those questions." "Then share them with the council. They are convening now." Shirath looked down at Ji-Woo and her family. "It seems we must face the council. Stay close to me and let me speak. Some of my kind are not as understanding as I am." They were led through the massive ship to an even larger chamber. This one was circular, with 12 raised platforms arranged around the edges. On each platform sat an ancient dragon, each one scarred and powerful. These were the council, the leaders of the Drakium sovereignty. In the center of the circle was an open space where Shirath led the humans. Rin refused to leave Ji-Woo's side, despite several attempts by other dragons to take him away. The largest dragon on the council spoke. His scales were almost black with age, and his voice sounded like grinding stone. "I am Ancient Corvith, head of this council. Elder Shirath, explain why the lost child was found with humans. Explain why he was not immediately returned to us. Explain why he now clings to an alien instead of his own kind." Shirath bowed her head respectfully, then told the story again. She spoke of Ji-Woo finding Rin, of the medical care he received, of the days spent healing. The humans were not trying to keep him, Shirath concluded. They were trying to save him. "Or so they claim," another council member said. "This dragon had cold blue eyes. How do we know they didn't cause his injuries? How do we know this isn't a trick?" "Ask the child yourself," Shirath suggested. Corvith addressed Rin directly, speaking in the dragon language. Rin responded with chirps and whistles. The conversation went on for several minutes. Ji-Woo wished she could understand what they were saying. Finally, Corvith turned back to the humans. "The child says you found him sick. He says you gave him warmth and food. He says the small one," he gestured at Ji-Woo, "stayed with him when he was scared." "Then there is no crime here," Shirath said. "Only kindness." "Kindness." Vex, the unfriendly dragon, spoke up. "Or manipulation. The child is young and easily influenced. How do we know these humans didn't plan this? Dragons are powerful. A dragon who trusts humans could be used as a tool." "Rin is 8 years old," Ji-Woo burst out, her voice echoing in the chamber. Everyone turned to look at her. Min tried to pull her back, but she stepped forward. "He's just a child. He was lost and scared and sick. I didn't help him because I wanted something from him. I helped him because it was the right thing to do." The chamber went silent. No one spoke to the council like that, especially not a human child. Vex rose to his full height. "You dare raise your voice in this chamber?" "I dare," Ji-Woo said, and her voice shook, but she didn't back down. "Because what you're saying is wrong. Rin isn't a tool. He's not a weapon. He's a person. And he was hurt and alone, and I helped him. That's all." Corvith's eyes gleamed with something that might have been interest. "You are brave, human child. Foolish, but brave." "There is a solution to this debate," another council member said. This one had green scales and a thoughtful expression. "Test a human. Test her character. If she is truly kind, it will show. If she is manipulative, that will show too." "What kind of test?" Min asked, stepping protectively in front of his daughter. A simple one, Vex said, and his smile showed all his teeth. Let the child approach me. If she shows no fear, if she demonstrates the courage she claims to have, then perhaps we can believe her intentions are pure. Shirath's eyes narrowed. Vex, that is unnecessarily cruel. It is necessary, Vex insisted. I have never shown mercy to outsiders. Everyone knows this. If the human child can approach me without fear, then she is truly exceptional. Jiwoo looked up at the enormous dragon. Vex was even larger than Shirath, and his scales were dark gray, almost black. Scars covered his body. His eyes were like molten gold, cold and merciless. Don't do it, Jiwoo, Kyung-soo whispered. But Jiwoo thought of Rin. She thought of how scared he had been in that alley. She thought of how he had started to trust her, slowly, carefully. If she showed fear now, the council might take him away forever. They might decide humans couldn't be trusted. I'll do it, she said quietly. The chamber held its breath as a small human child walked toward the most fearsome dragon on the council. Jiwoo's footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Every eye was on her as she walked toward Vex. The massive dragon waited on his platform, perfectly still, like a statue carved from stone. His golden eyes tracked her movement, cold and calculating. Behind her, she could hear Rin making distressed chirping sounds. She could hear her father's sharp intake of breath. But she didn't stop walking. When she reached the base of Vex's platform, she had to tilt her head all the way back to see his face. He was enormous. One of his claws was bigger than her entire body. Scars covered his scales, telling stories of countless battles. This was a dragon who had fought and killed. This was a dragon who had never shown mercy. Vex lowered his massive head, bringing his face down to her level. His jaws were right in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat of his breath. Those jaws could swallow her in one bite. His teeth were like swords, each one sharp enough to tear through steel. You claim to be brave, Vex said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. But I see you trembling, human child. It was true. Jiwoo was shaking. Fear ran through her body like electricity. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to get away from this dangerous creature. But she thought about Rin again. She thought about how scared he must have been, lost and alone in those cold corridors. She thought about how he had learned to trust her, even though he had every reason to be afraid. She raised her hand, slowly, carefully, and she placed it on Vex's scaled snout. The dragon's eyes widened in shock. You're scared too, Jiwoo said softly. Her voice was small but steady. Scared that things will change. Scared that letting other species close to dragons will make you weak. Scared that showing kindness means losing strength. The chamber was so quiet that a pin dropping would have sounded like thunder. But being kind doesn't make you weak. Jiwoo continued. Rin was hurt, and I helped him. Not because I wanted something from him. Not because I was trying to trick anyone. I helped him because he's my friend. And friends don't give up on each other. They don't let fear stop them from doing what's right. Vex stared at her for a long moment. His golden eyes seemed to see right through her, measuring everything she was. Then, slowly, something changed in his expression. The coldness melted, just a little, replaced by something that might have been respect. You are either the bravest creature I have ever met, Vex said quietly, or the most foolish. Maybe both, Jiwoo admitted. For the first time in 300 years, Vex laughed. It was a deep, rough sound, like rocks grinding together, but it was real laughter. The sound shocked everyone in the chamber. He lifted his head and addressed the council. I have my answer. This human child has shown more courage in 2 minutes than most warriors show in their entire lives. Her heart is pure. Her intentions are genuine. Ancient Corvith nodded slowly. The council has seen enough. Elder Shirath, your assessment was correct. The humans did not harm the child. They saved him. Relief flooded through the chamber. Taemin nearly collapsed, and Kyung-soo had to steady him. But Jiwoo just walked back to Rin, who immediately pressed against her side, purring with happiness. However, Corvith continued, and everyone tensed again. We must address the clutch bond. Rin has bonded with the human child. This is unprecedented. What do we do about it? The council members spoke among themselves in their own language. The conversation went on for several minutes, with some dragons seeming angry, while others appeared thoughtful. Finally, Corvus spoke again. We have reached a decision. The bond cannot be broken. To separate them now would cause psychological harm to the child. Therefore, we will allow the bond to continue. Jiwoo's heart soared, but Corvus wasn't finished. However, this comes with conditions. The human child, Jiwoo, must accept the dragon gift. She must become Clutchkin, an honorary member of the Drakium. This means she will carry the responsibilities of dragon kinship. She must uphold the values of courage, loyalty, and protection of the young. She will be expected to defend the bond and honor it throughout her life. And if she accepts, Shirath added, Rin will be permitted to visit human space, and Jiwoo will be permitted to visit dragon worlds. They will not be separated, but they will learn both cultures. They will bridge our peoples. Taemin looked down at his daughter. Jiwoo, this is a big decision. This will change your entire life. You don't have to say yes. But Jiwoo didn't hesitate. She looked at Rin, at her friend who had learned to trust again because of her. I accept. Shirath stepped forward. Then come forward, child. Receive the gift. Jiwoo walked to the center of the chamber. Shirath nodded to Rin, who understood what he needed to do. The small dragon walked to Jiwoo and, very carefully, used his small claws to remove a single scale from his chest. It was no bigger than Jiwoo's thumb, gleaming blue and silver. Rin placed the scale in Jiwoo's hand. It was warm, almost hot, and it seemed to pulse with its own light. That scale contains a piece of Rin's essence, Shirath explained. Keep it with you always. It marks you as Clutchkin. Any dragon who sees it will know you are under our protection. You are family now. Jiwoo closed her fingers around the scale, feeling its warmth. Tears ran down her face, but they were happy tears. The bond is sealed, Corvus declared. From this day forward, let it be known that humans and dragons can be more than allies. We can be family. The following weeks changed everything. The story of the human child and the dragon spread across the galaxy. News stations reported it. Governments discussed it. Some species were skeptical, but others were inspired. Shirath proposed an exchange program. Human families could host young dragons, and dragon families could host human children. It started small, with just a few volunteers. But it grew. Jiwoo and Rin became ambassadors, representing their unique bond. They traveled to both human and dragon worlds, showing everyone that friendship could cross even the widest gaps. Rin grew quickly, as dragons do. Within a year, he was as large as a horse. Within 3 years, his wings could carry both him and Jiwoo across the sky. But no matter how big he got, he was still the same Rin who had been scared and alone in that cold alley. Jiwoo grew too, not in size but in confidence and wisdom. She learned dragon customs and language. She learned to ride on Rin's back as he flew through clouds. She learned that being brave didn't mean not feeling fear. It meant doing the right thing even when you were scared. 7 years after their first meeting, Jiwoo stood on a platform at the same trading station where she had found Rin. She was 16 now, and Rin was massive, his wingspan stretching 20 meters. They were there for a ceremony celebrating the alliance between humans and dragons. Hundreds of families had participated in the exchange program. Dozens of bonds had formed. The galaxy was different now, changed by one small act of kindness. Do you ever think about that day? Jiwoo asked Rin as they waited for the ceremony to begin. She spoke in dragon tongue now, fluent after years of practice. Rin turned his great head to look at her. His golden eyes were warm with affection. Every day, he rumbled, I think about how scared I was, how alone I felt. And then you found me. I almost didn't, Jiwoo admitted. I almost walked away. It would have been safer. But you didn't. You chose courage over safety. You chose compassion over fear. That's what makes humans special. From the platform, they could see both human and dragon ships in the docking bays. Families of both species walked together through the marketplace. Children played together, human and dragon young learning from each other. We changed things, Jiwoo said softly. You changed things, Rin corrected. I was just a scared child. You were the one who decided that scared children deserve help, no matter what species they are. The ceremony began. Speakers talked about peace and friendship, about the importance of looking past differences. But Ji-woo barely heard them. She was thinking about that moment in the alley, when she had made the choice to help instead of walking away. It had seemed like such a small choice at the time. Just one child helping another. But small choices could change everything. Small acts of kindness could reshape the galaxy. Later, after the ceremony ended, Ji-woo and Rin flew together. They soared above the trading station, above the ships, out into the darkness of space. Stars surrounded them, endless and beautiful. "Thank you," Rin said as they flew, "for seeing me, for helping me, for being my friend." "Thank you for teaching me," Ji-woo replied, "for showing me that being brave means being kind, that strength comes from caring about others." They flew in silence for a while, dragon and human, two beings who should have been impossible friends, but who had become family. Below them, the galaxy continued its busy dance. Ships traveled between stars. Species traded and talked and learned from each other. And somewhere in that vast darkness, another child might be alone and scared and in need of help. Ji-woo hoped that when that moment came, someone would make the same choice she had made. Someone would choose compassion over fear. Someone would choose to help. Because that's what humanity did best. They looked at the universe and saw not enemies or tools or resources. They saw people. They saw individuals who mattered, who deserved kindness, who were worth saving. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, those individuals became your family. Rin banked left, heading back toward the station. Ji-woo laughed as they dove through a cluster of small asteroids, the rush of flight filling her with joy. Behind them, the stars shone bright and endless, full of possibility and hope. The galaxy was big, but friendship was bigger, and that made all the difference.